All right. Everyone ready?
Yep.
That's great. All right. Thank you everyone for coming to the talk today. Our focus for the talk is going to be idea to action. How do you take an idea and create a 4-week demo sprint so you actually gain some momentum in terms of moving forward? Our goal at the end of this talk is for you to leave with a plan to make progress and push forward any idea you have, whether it be your next big startup idea, making something creative, or whatever it may be. So, my name is Brandon Reed, and I'm here to talk to you about idea to action. Let's talk about a demo sprint. So, a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Brandon. I'm the founder and CEO of Heirloom, which is an online platform for people with ideas to find their starting team and give those ideas life. Our goal at Heirloom is to make sure that anyone has the opportunity to pursue something that they're passionate about. I'm an ex-Meta software engineer. Did my undergrad in computer engineering, so I'm pretty well versed in anything tech. I'm a builder at heart. I've built a lot of things in my past, and I'm building Heirloom right now. I just love creating and spending my time doing that. And I want to help you pursue your passions. And most importantly, I am obsessed with my dogs. So whenever I get the chance, I show pictures of them. And here they are. These are my two dogs, Coco and Callie. Very cute, very good boys and girls. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just want to show them off. So let's start off with breaking down ideas. First, you want to think about the different layers of your idea. Ideas, MVP, 4-week estimate, and week by week. We'll go over these different layers throughout this presentation, but I want to give you guys a nice overview of how it works. You go from top of funnel, big, large concept ideas, to bottom funnel, smaller and actual actionable steps to moving forward. So let's start off with ideas. So where do ideas come from? Ideas really come from anywhere. They're written down in your notepad. You think about them in the shower while you're bathing, while you're on walks. Literally anytime you have time to think, you come up with ideas. All of us come up with ideas, millions of them daily, and some of them we write down, some of them we do not. Some ideas come from noticing a problem and looking for a solution. That's where a lot of prominent startup ideas come from. They're looking to find solutions to problems that people experience every day. Sometimes ideas just come from creativity. Maybe you want to make a song or you want to make a painting. These are also ideas. It's overall a desire to build that all of us have. If you're unsure where to start when it comes to making an idea, think about what you're good at and what you like to do. That's a good base for just generating ideas to work on. So I want everyone to take 3 minutes and write down what is your notepad idea. And in particular, if you're not really sure where to start, if somebody gave you 3 months to work on anything you want, all paid expenses, what would you work on? Would you make art? Would you build a software project? Would you start a nonprofit? Your idea doesn't have to be large scope, but I'd love if you just wrote something down right now. So I'll give everyone time to do that. Awesome. Can I get a show of hands if people feel good? Awesome. So we'll move on. And now I want you guys to share out your notepad idea. Tell me what you wrote down. Don't be shy.
Yeah, I can go first. I think if I had 3 months to build any idea, it would be a procedurally generated like game where you fly around this terrain, maybe like a plane or something that's 3D generated on like 3GS.
Sounds pretty cool.
I
What
had three
about you?
months. I would build an idea sharing platform that I would think about calling Heirloom.
Wow, that sounds like a great idea, honestly.
Thanks. We should build it together.
So yeah, my idea for this presentation, the example idea, is going to be a dog music artist. I want to become the best music artist for dog music. And that's what we're going to break down over the course of this presentation. So next step, what is an MVP? MVP stands for minimal viable product. It's the smallest possible thing that you can create that still represents your overall idea. So for example, for you, Justin, creating sort of like an airplane simulator in 3JS, you can build all these sort of features, dynamic mountains, collision, all this sort of stuff. Or you can think about what your MVP would be, which would be the smallest possible version of that product that still works. And in your case scenario, it's probably just a scene where you can fly a plane around, you know? That's probably the simplest version. It's important when you think about MVPs to do the bottom row and not the top row. What does this mean? If you're thinking of your idea like a car, you don't want to start off with the wheels and then the axle and then the car and then everything else that comes along. Because steps one, two, and three don't work alone independently. They don't solve the problem of transportation. Whereas if you think of your MVP like the bottom row, where you start with a skateboard, then a scooter, then a bike, then a motorcycle, then a car, all of these solutions solve that problem of transportation, but they each get more complicated over time. And that's how you want to think about your MVP. The minimal viable version of your product should still do what your idea wants, but it should be you should remove all those extra features and bells and whistles that you want in the end. So for me, I want to be a dog music artist. But that's a large scoped goal. So what can I do that is an MVP? I'd argue an album for dogs. This still allows me to become a dog music artist eventually, but I'm making sure that I'm doing the most important thing, which is making music for dogs. So an album is a great first step for me to prove that out. Next, we'll move on to the 4-week plan. How do you make this scope get even smaller? So what I want you guys to do is think about what you can get done in 4 weeks. You got to think of a time estimate and then cut that in half. Things always get in the way, problems arise. And so when you first think of the time box, at least set half of that aside for fixing issues or anything else that comes up in your life. Maybe you want to go get dinner with a significant other. Maybe you have some sort of event that you didn't plan for. These are things that you should, put into your time estimate. Next thing, you want to acknowledge your skills and what do you need to learn. For me, I've been producing music for a while and I'm obsessed with my dogs. So I'm already at a bar that's a little higher where I know how to make music and I don't need to learn as much in terms of how to, get to an album. But for some other people, maybe for you, Justin, for your 3JS project, let's say you don't know 3JS. You should acknowledge that that's going to take some time and factor that in into what you can get done in 4 weeks. Next, you want to determine where you want to be in a month. That's pretty obvious, 4 week sprint. But think about ideally a month from now, what is your best case scenario and what is your worst case scenario? And use that as a box to determine where you should end up landing. Lastly, pick a goal that moves you towards that mindset. You're not going to get everything done in 4 weeks. I'm not going to be the top selling dog artist in 4 weeks, but I should pick a goal that's going to move me closer to that. That's where the album comes in. That's where maybe the first iteration of your plane simulator comes in. So for me, the 4 week estimate is creating 2 songs. Maybe I can create more than 2 songs in 4 weeks. 4 weeks is a lot of time, but things get in the way. And I think it's realistic to say that every 2 weeks I can create 1 song with no excuse. So that's what I pick for my 4 week estimate. I'd actually love to hear from you guys. What do you think is something you can get done in 4 weeks?
Yeah, I guess for my idea, what I could get done in 4 weeks is making a controllable plane on 3GS, as well as just terrain on procedurally generated terrain around as an environment.
Awesome. And what about you, Andrew?
I think for Heirloom, it would look in the form of user interviews. I could do maybe 50 user interviews in 2 weeks.
Sounds great. So now we're going to move on to the bottom of the funnel, the real meat of this presentation, week by week. So I'm going to break down what each week should be and kind of what your goals for the week should be. Week one, in my opinion, should be building momentum, kind of getting yourself started in the mindset of creating your 4 week plan. Don't set a large goal for your first week. I know that's counterintuitive to what a lot of people say, but you really don't want to set something that's going to be so unachievable. You give yourself negative feedback and it becomes harder and harder to keep going. You want to use positive feedback to build momentum and make you want to move forward. So for your first week, you should set something so simple that there's no excuse to not get it done. Like I said, momentum is way more important than motivation and willpower. Motivation and willpower requires negative feedback. You telling yourself push forward, but when you don't do it, you get negative feedback. Oh my goodness, I couldn't use my willpower to move forward. Whereas momentum doesn't require anything from you. It just helps you keep moving forward and slowly grow in pace until you feel like everything is achievable. Importantly, spend this time changing your mindset. Maybe your goal isn't super large or super achievable, but it's something that should help you think about your project more often. So for me, like I said, don't set a large goal. So my first week goals could be start listening to dog music more intently or writing down ideas I have for songs. Both of these things were things I could do with minimal time and effort, but they help put my mindset towards the overall project goal. I'm starting to think a little bit more about what I want to create, about dog music, about ideas for songs. I'm just getting my brain in the habit of thinking about my project. And that's very, very important for the first week. Make sure you do something that is 100% achievable. My stretch goal could be work on one song. Maybe I have a little extra time that one week. And so I'll start working on a song. I'll open up one of my DAWs. I'll put down some ideas. And that's kind of what your first week to be. Very, very simple, just to get that little ball starting to roll. Week two should be your first execution. You should just do something. Share your progress with other people as well helps a ton. No matter how raw it is, no matter how bad you think it is, getting other people to look at what you're doing and just tell you good job or you're making good progress really, really helps when it comes to building momentum. Getting some support from external factors always is always a good thing. Additionally, reward yourself for getting something done. Similar to week one, maybe you won't get the most thing done. Maybe your goal is a lot smaller than you originally set it out to be. Um, but you should reward yourself. You should give yourself that positive feedback so that you feel good about this project. You want your brain to be happy when you're making work. You don't want to feel like it's a chore or something that you have to grind to. Lastly, reflect on your first attempt. After the end of your second week, think about how it felt to work on your project. Did it feel good? Did it feel bad? How much work do you feel like you can get done? And halfway through the 4 week sprint, this is a really important thing for you to do so that you can understand exactly where you're going to end up. Even when you start off with your 4 week sprint goal, you never know what's going to happen. You might have estimated too much time for the project, and you may need to dial back a little bit on your expectations. And that is okay. Like I said, you don't want to punish yourself for falling behind your goals. What you want to do is reward yourself for getting something done and moving forward, because that's how you build momentum. And that's how you make sure you get something done and you're happy creating. You should always be happy creating. So for me, my week two goals would be start my first song, share my first song and get some people to listen to it. And if I have a little extra time, I start my second song. Like Nike says, just do it or just do something. I want to pause here and give you guys some time to think about what your week two would be. If anyone wants to share, I'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'd say for me, after conducting my 50 user interviews, a good week two goal would be to try and categorize those user interviews into user personas and seeing like what information can I derive from the user interviews.
Yeah, for week two, for me, um, I think an achievable week two goal would be to like share a controllable ship or plane on my website. So just sharing it, seeing getting some feedback.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. So now we move on to week three, and this is when the habits should start to form. Like I said, during week two, you want to reevaluate your goal and reflect on your progress so far. You also want to be at least halfway to your final goal. So that might mean shifting what your final goal actually is and using where you are at the end of week two to determine where you should be at the end of week four. Importantly, week three is when the habit starts forming. After spending all this time working on your project, building the project, and giving yourself positive feedback, you'll find yourself thinking a little bit more about doing work and you'll be spending some more of your free time actually trying to move it forward. For me, my week three goals could be polish my first song, work on my second song, reevaluate my week four goal. Maybe I can't actually finish two songs in 4 weeks and I had to focus on just that one song. Or if I really have a lot of free time, I could finish both of my songs. I'm going to ask you guys again what you think your week three goal would be. And so if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, my week three goal would be like adding terrain, mountains, oceans, anything that is landscaping. Yeah, anything like that.
I think my week three goal would be sort of figuring out where figuring out common threads between the user personas, how to market to them, and like how to approach them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you guys again. Lastly, week four. Week four is when the mindset shift really happens. You should start preparing for your demo, whatever your end product should be. Put on some of your finishing touches for the final product that you want to share out, and think about what's next. After a 4 week sprint, you're not done. You haven't finished your MVP, and you probably want to keep on building. This is when you should start thinking about what's my next 4 week sprint look like? What's next that I should do? Reevaluate. Maybe I'm going to do something slightly different than what I wanted to do before. Most importantly, week four is when you'll definitely see a lot of the mindset shift. Like I was saying during week three, the habit is forming. But now you'll start thinking about your project in times that you're doing other work, or maybe you're going for a run. For me, my week four goals would be finishing my songs and preparing my demo, start thinking about the rest of the album, what that might look like, and reflect on the work that I've gotten done and what I want to get done next. As you can see in the image there, that's me. And now I'm thinking about my dogs all the time. What do you guys think your week four goal and your demo would be? And I would encourage you to maybe think about how you would feel after you got that done.
Yeah, I think week four for me would be like launching the simulation on a website and like sharing it with everybody. So that would be my demo, reflecting on improvements, like getting feedback from people who have played on it and just like build upon that and, from their feedback.
Um, I think for me, a good week four goal. I think a good week four goal would be to start developing a prototype for the software MVP, assuming that the user interviews are properly conducted. If you need any pointers on how to conduct user interviews, I hear there was a great workshop done earlier.
That's true. And I think for both of you guys, it's important to understand that week four, that's that demo, that's that deadline. But as Andy kind of alluded to, there is next steps there, for building something like Heirloom. Now your next 4 week sprint could be talking more about building up that actual MVP. And for you, Justin, with the flight simulator, your next steps could be maybe multiplayer networking or publishing or marketing for the platform or anything beyond what you did originally. But importantly, like when you get there, you'll start thinking about those things and you'll start spending more of your time actually working on your project because it's something that you enjoyed doing. And that's what I hope you guys get out of your 4 weeks. So my last couple of things I want to do is talk to you a bit about you guys about systems and a bit of advice for embarking on this 4 week demo sprint. First of all, systems to keep track. I recommend twice a week reflecting on your project. Maybe that might be too much time commitment. Maybe you can only do once a week. But I highly, highly, highly recommend at least once a week, writing down what you got done that week and what you want to get done next. Unfortunately, it's hard to keep everything in your head. And writing things down and being able to look back on that later on in the week really helps you understand where you went and where you're going. It gives you a bit of positive feedback to realize that you're better today than you were the day before. So I'd highly recommend writing down how working on the project made you feel or how the progress is going. You could also use Heirloom's project dashboard. Heirloom, like I mentioned before, is the company that I'm building, and Heirloom has a project dashboard that helps you keep track of tasks that you need to get done and allows you to write down documentation about how the task went and how it made you feel. It's a great way to organize your thoughts and work as you move forward, and it lets you reflect on it later in the past. You can go back to tasks that you got done way before, read what you did, read how it made you feel. And it's always good to know where you are now than where you were in the past. Some advice. Number one, forgive yourself. Like I mentioned before, negative feedback is the killer of momentum. You don't want to punish yourself for not getting something done. Life gets in the way, and at the end of the day, you're working on a side project. You have other responsibilities. So forgive yourself for not getting your goals done on time. That being said, don't over forgive yourself. Don't just keep saying, oh, it's fine. I didn't get done. I'll be okay. Try and strike a good balance of, okay, I didn't get it done this week, but next week I'm going to work a little extra hard in my free time to try to get that next goal done. That's pretty important. Have fun. This is a side project that you're working on, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be a chore. So treat it like it's something that's fun. Have fun while you're doing it. Listen to music, like do something that makes you enjoy it because that will help you in the long run. It'll help you not burn out. Share the messy middle. A lot of projects, a lot of times we're afraid to share the progress steps because we don't want people to judge what we're doing. We want people to be like, oh my God, that's terrible. But the reality of it is people respect you, respect the project when you're showing, the messy middle and the parts that necessarily don't work out super well. It's always great to get feedback from outside people, even if it's constructive, to know that people see what you're doing, they care, and they're there to support you. So highly, highly recommend sharing the messy middle and kind of the steps you're taking to get to that finished product. People love seeing the journey more than they love seeing the destination. Lastly, reward your small steps. And this is kind of similar to forgiving yourself and having fun. Every time you make some progress, reward yourself. Feel good about it. You did something today that you didn't do yesterday. And it's a great way to trick your brain to moving forward by giving yourself a little bit of dopamine every time you finish something. So no matter how small the step is, maybe for me for the dog song, I added a bass line to a song. I should make myself feel good about that. I did something. I moved the project forward and I kept it going. It's all about building momentum. You never want to stop that ball from rolling downward. You want to keep letting it roll and you want to keep watching it build up. And that's the most important step. You're not going to finish your project after 4 weeks, but at the end of the 4 weeks, you should feel good about making your project. That is the most important part for the longevity. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Don't exhaust yourself. Be ready to pace yourself and be ready to keep moving forward. That's the most important part. You want to be in that mentality. Also, check out Heirloom. Shameless plug over here. But Heirloom is a community platform where ideas don't die. Like I mentioned before, it's a great community to build with others and get support. You can post on our homepage, share the messy middle, and get some feedback from people who are also building alongside you. It's a lot easier to build when there's other people around you building because it feels a little less alone. So join Heirloom, post your idea on there, and talk about the messy middle and get that support you need. Also, consider joining our builders cohort. It's a group of people that are looking to build at the same time as you, and most of them are doing it alone. Community is always better than doing it alone. So check us out, see what we're about, and use us to help to build in public and keep track of your work. I want to thank you guys all for listening. And if you want to contact us, I left the email here in the description. But like I said, I hope after all this, you guys, start your 4 week sprint, get the ball rolling. Most importantly, get that ball rolling. And yeah, best of luck to everyone here. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. Yeah, I think this was
So
a great.
what's your current 4 week sprint?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I use dog music as a little joke example because I'm obsessed with my dogs, but I actually am trying to make music beyond that. So my current 4 week sprint is making 2 songs for an album that I'm planning on, finishing over the course of about 6 months. But I've been using this philosophy a lot. I don't have time to work on songs every single day. I'm working on Heirloom. I'm doing other stuff. But I spend at least some time each week planning my next 4 weeks and understanding where I will be at the end of those 4 weeks and thinking about how making the songs made me feel. Some weeks I only add a bass line. Some weeks I write 2 songs. But most importantly, I'm keeping the momentum. And I found, in my free time a lot, I'm thinking a lot about making music. So, well, if there's no
Thank
more
you.
questions, thank you guys for listening and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.